Welcome to the eclipse season. We start off with the lunar eclipse in Pisces on Tuesday, September 17th. This eclipse introduces a new series of eclipses in Virgo and Pisces and brings up major new themes that will take us all the way through 2025, 2026, and into 2027. It's going to be very important and very exciting. Let's take a closer look. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you enjoy my work and want to show your support, please leave a like, a comment, subscribe, and press that notification bell. Watch another one of my videos. Anything you do really helps promote my content, show it to more people, helps me grow, and in turn encourages me to bring more content your way. Another way of saying thank you is by buying me a coffee, a tea, a croissant, whatever your heart desires. Before we dive in, if you're looking for personal guidance, you have questions about your relationship, you want to know what year ahead has in store for you, or you want to understand yourself better, book a reading with me on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. There are a few reading durations, a few options, something great for everyone. Additionally, on my website, you can find a variety of products I create. I pour a lot of love into them. The one that I am most excited about right now is my 2025 astrological planner. It has 223 pages filled with insights about transits, insights about lunations, lunar signs, journaling prompts, good dates for marriage, bad dates for relationships, and a lot of insights that can help you navigate the year and make your life better. And also, as a Virgo, I am a big fan of planning and sort of, making sure everything is like precise and specific. Additionally, on my website, you can find candles and oils I create. I work with astrology in a proactive way, capturing, harnessing the energy of the good transits, and then using that energy to help myself and you make it through the more difficult times. I'd like to highlight my Moon in Cancer 2 candle. This one was created in 2024, and it captures the empowered moon in the sign of rulership. Very supportive, very loving, very kind, great at manifesting, great at easing your worries, easing your stress. I need to light one up. And helping with fertility and emotional well-being. I highly recommend this for any moon in Capricorn or moon in Scorpio out there. If your moon is conjunct Saturn, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, shaky energy, if it's in the 6th, 8th, or 12th houses, this is the choice for you. Okay, so let's talk about this first eclipse of the season. The first one is, like I said, Tuesday, September 17th. The second one is on October 2nd. And this is an out of sign eclipse because the north node is still in Aries. But when the nodes start to shift and get really close, they're moving backwards, right? So when they get really close to the border of the sign, as it is right now, the node is at about 6 degrees, I believe, of Aries. And the eclipse occurs very close to it. So this eclipse occurs at 2540 Pisces. So it's within 10 degrees or so of the north node, we get the eclipse. And this one is a really big one. But before we even talk about that, right? What is an eclipse? An eclipse happens when we get the new moon or the full moon in the proximity to the node. And the lunar eclipse specifically happens when the Earth falls in between the sun. Well, basically, the Earth is in between the sun and the moon, and we can't see the light of the sun on the moon. So the moon gets darkened, right? Like the Earth blocks some of the solar light from reaching the moon, and the moon looks dark. And classically, eclipses have been times of panic, and people didn't quite know because at the time you're supposed to have a full moon, it's gone and you can't see it, or it's red and bloody and dramatic. Or solar eclipses happen when you can't see the sun in the middle of the day, it gets dark. So eclipses always carried this kind of scary, electric, big energy to them. And so we continue, you know, astrologically, we know that eclipses can be timed and we know when they're coming. So they're less of a scary thing, but they still represent, eclipses happen right next to North and South Node. And those are very karmic, very potent. I have video series on nodes in different zodiac signs if you want to explore that and see what it means. If you're born with a specific North Node, definitely check it out. So to sum up, it's a really important time. This eclipse is happening on the North Node. The North Node has the energy of like hunger. It pulls in. It's materially driven. It represents the increase, the growth, the sort of absorption of the themes, and it's happening in Pisces, so these themes will be increasing. Why this eclipse is a huge deal is because it's giving us a preview of the next eclipse series. In January, around January 12th, 2025, the North Node will shift into Pisces and South Node will shift into Virgo. And they will stay in this pair of signs until July 2026, but the final Pisces eclipse will happen in August 2026, and the final Virgo eclipse will happen in March, I believe, 2027. So it's not just like a year and a half, and it's not just starting in January, it's starting now in September and then lasting all the way until spring of 2027. So it's important, right? And it brings up some of the themes we have dealt before. So we've had the exact same eclipse series between 2006 2007, and if you wanted to look back and be even more specific, we've had Pisces eclipses in September 2006, March 2007, and then August 2007. And so it's a worthwhile exercise to look back at those dates to see what kind of important events were happening in your life. This eclipse occurs at 10:34 p.m. Eastern Time Zone on Tuesday, September 17th. So if you are in Europe, it's going to be Wednesday, September 18th for you. And it happens at 25 degrees 40 minutes Pisces. So it's most important, and it's big and potent for people with planets between 22, 28 degrees mutable signs, which are Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Gemini. And on some level, we are completing the chapter that got started in March 2024 with a new moon in Pisces. But on the other level, like I said, we are introducing a new chapter, new themes, new energy, because we are starting new series of eclipses. So it's important, it's big, it's definitely worth looking at 2006, 2007 in terms of what might be coming up for you. The theme that we will be, the season of eclipses, the energy that we will be exploring for the next couple of years will have to do with South Node in Virgo and North Node in Pisces. And this eclipse, being the Pisces eclipse, definitely, like I said, highlights the Pisces energy. But what we will be sort of addressing and transforming and reflecting on is the need for more kindness, I think, and the need for more trust, right? Virgo, we will have South Node in Virgo, and South Node represents, if North Node is that hungry head of the dragon, wants to eat more, never satisfied, the South Node, which is about to enter Virgo, is about cleansing, release, letting go, rethinking. So, and we'll talk about it more when we get to Virgo eclipses, which is early next year. But what is actually, let me see when the next Virgo eclipse is happening. So we have the first eclipse in Pisces right now, and then the eclipse in Virgo March 14th. Yeah, so we're gonna get to Virgo eclipse in March, and then the next Pisces will be actually the fall of 2025. So with the South Node in Virgo, we are encouraged to examine, where are we being too hard on ourselves? Where are we being too critical? Where are we expecting too much? Where are we not letting ourselves be human, right? And this is where Pisces energy comes in. And so with this eclipse and with the larger eclipse series, Pisces will remind us of the beauty of acceptance, right? Like Pisces is very go with the flow energy. It's the chill energy. It's try to enjoy the moment, slow down, rest, take a nap, right? So I think on a collective level, we are likely going to feel the shift and the priority going towards spiritual, creative, soulful. We are going to get a chance to practice acceptance and forgiveness. Virgo really needs to learn that it's not about perfection, right? And perfection is not achievable. Virgo needs to be reminded that it's okay to fail, that you don't get better if you don't fail, and failure doesn't reflect badly on you. It's all part of life. We're going to be encouraged to build trust, to trust that the universe has our back, to not try to control and micromanage every single detail. And examine our dreams as well. I think the big theme of this eclipse is learning to figure out which dreams are realistic and are worth pursuing versus which dreams are mere fantasies or delusions and actually maybe even destructive on some level. So there are really kind of important themes coming up, and you may notice being more interested in spirituality, being more interested in astrology, being more interested in Reiki and other spiritual sciences, things that once again feed your soul, things that make you feel connected, things that make you feel supported. Topics of like learning to love yourself no matter where you come from are quite important here. So what's the aspects this eclipse is making is it's conjoining Neptune relatively closely, and the conjunction to Neptune, while we have Virgo, I'm just gonna pull it up on my screen. So the conjunction with Neptune suggests a dreamy quality, but also potentially a confusing quality, because around the same time we also have Mercury in Virgo in opposition to Saturn in Pisces, and by sign in opposition to the moon and Neptune in Pisces. So there's a chance that this eclipse brings an element of confusion, as eclipses often do, right? We always kind of have to remember that eclipses are pivotal, but at times when you're in it, you don't quite know what it's for, what it's meant to be, and like don't expect sort of like profound clarity at the time of this eclipse, but it could be inspiring, right? Like once again, like you may be understanding something about the universe, about your place in it, about forgiveness, about acceptance. So while there's an element of confusion, there's also potentially an element of like divine guidance that comes with this eclipse. It also squares Jupiter, and Jupiter is the ruler of the eclipse. And the fact that Jupiter is in Gemini, there's also this sense of Jupiter being in the curious, analytical, sort of facts-oriented Gemini. It is in the sign of its detriment, but it's also inviting us to examine things we believe and things we hold dear and fact-check them. And so I think that's another sign that there may be a chance to review your beliefs, to rethink your dreams, to let go of fantasies, and once again separate the details from the purpose, right? I like Austin Kopach often talks, and he's my first teacher, and you can find him on Astrology podcast. He often talks about Pisces being like the soup, where it's really hard to separate things, right? Where it's like Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, so it's all about the unity, it's all about putting things together. And it's really hard to separate details and facts. And it's, it's hard to separate ingredients because they all seep into one another. So I think with this eclipse, it's about the flavor. It's not about the separate ingredients. So once again, some kind of, building trust, figuring out the purpose, figuring out the mission, and appreciating, maybe even not knowing, appreciating being here right now, perfect as you are, perfectly imperfect as you are. So If you're looking for a personal consultation, you want me to look at your chart and answer questions you have, analyze what it's hitting, what the eclipse is hitting in your chart, or talk about your relationship, your year coming up, find me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. You can book a reading on there and we can definitely dive in and talk in depth about what this means for you or anything else. We have a second eclipse coming up in very early October. So let's talk about the rising signs, starting with Aries rising. I recommend listening for your rising sign. You can listen for your sun or moon, but rising tends to be the most accurate. Aries rising is getting this lunar eclipse in the 12th house with a square to Jupiter in the 3rd. And so here you're looking at your sector of mental health, spirituality, rest, and escape. And on one level, you may be completing the chapter started in March 2024 when we had the new moon in Pisces. So if you started working with a therapist or you started taking some kind of classes, learning something, working on your health, you might notice a pivot, a turning point, some kind of completion of a problem potentially. But on a larger scale, this eclipse is inviting you to connect with something beyond the visible. I think it is saying that it's like illuminating, even though the eclipse represents sort of the darkening of the moon, but I think the light of the eclipse is illuminating your 12th house and how your mental state, how the thoughts you're feeding yourself, how maybe the doubts you have, how they are affecting your physical health. The sun is in the 6th house of physical health. The moon is in the 12th house together with Saturn and Neptune. And so it's all about like this interconnectivity between your mental health and your physical health. And what needs to change, right? Both in the realm of your physical health and in the realm of the mental health. What kind of bad habits do you have? Is it eating too much sugar? Is it drinking too much wine? Is it being critical of yourself? Is it being too flexible and accommodating with your friends? They come to like sort of, I don't know, mess with your plans and you're being understanding. What kind of bad habits, self-defeating tendencies do you need to release? And at the same time, with the eclipse series coming up and sort of bigger themes opening up in your 12th house, there is also a strong focus on escaping, getting away, changing your everyday life, changing your work life from being this maybe like someone who controls all the details, someone who's heavily involved in problem solving, very Virgo-like, right? Like you're very analytical in your professional life. You're maybe very good with your hands and shifting more into the spiritual healing realm, into working with energy instead of matter, right? Maybe some of you in the next couple of years, maybe you will move, maybe you will discover spiritual passions and become a healer, a Reiki instructor, a yoga teacher. The possibilities are endless. If you're looking for more guidance, please book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. I do relationship predictive year ahead readings and I'd be happy to answer your questions. And definitely pick up my Moon in Cancer candle. It's beautiful, it smells amazing, and it is very soothing. If you are the beautiful Taurus rising, we're getting the lunar eclipse in your 11th house. And on one hand, you are completing the chapter started in March 2024 with the new moon in Pisces. On the other, you're opening yourself up to new possibilities, new beginnings, because this eclipse series will take us through 2025, 2026, and into early 2027. It will be a very, very long, massive one. But there will be a lot of sort of crossover with Aquarius, eclipses, etc. So lunar eclipse in the 11th house suggests changes around friendships, around networks, around your role in the collective. And because it's a lunar eclipse, it's an opportunity to let something go and to clear space for new possibilities, right? So you're maybe examining your relationships and wondering whether they are aligned with who you are and what you're trying to achieve. You may be craving some kind of spiritual calling or spiritual energy, spiritual passion. You're maybe craving friends who are more artistic. You're maybe noticing a certain desire to get involved with your community, to give back, to guide, to mentor, to sort of step up and help people. The ruler is Jupiter in the second house, so it's indicative of your values changing, or maybe even your finances changing. It feels very much like you're seeking either to get more plugged in into the community and do work that is altruistic, or you're on some level closing some relationships and releasing some sort of dynamics, and maybe even releasing the need to control everything, right? Like with the Sun and Mercury in your fifth house, you can be very sort of almost like micromanage pleasure, or micromanage children, or micromanage your relationships and your creative pursuits. And so this eclipse is asking you to almost trust that when things don't quite go exactly as you scheduled them, there's still space for more. There's still space for excitement and beauty. And so I think accepting of yourself in whichever place you are, letting go of some dreams that maybe didn't come true, and rethinking them and welcoming new possibilities with the eclipse series that will start full on with the nodes shifting into Virgo and Pisces in 2025 is the invitation here. And very much, you know, like who's in your corner? Do you feel like people you're next to, are they spiritually supportive, or do you need to find different groups of people and perhaps a better sense of belonging? Please share how this resonates. If you're looking for a personal consultation, you have questions you'd like me to answer, please book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. You can find a variety of durations and reading options on my website. Definitely pick up the Moon in Cancer candle. It's really good for the eclipse season because the energy is shaky, and this one has a calming effect. For the lovely Gemini rising, we have a lunar eclipse in the 10th house. So you're maybe completing a professional chapter started in March 2024 with a new moon in Pisces. Or you are not, but also you're not just completing that chapter, you are aligning with your inner calling and sort of focusing yourself towards new beginnings. And this is an interesting one because I think it encourages you to trust. It encourages you to be open and sort of like, you know, with the Sun in Virgo, with Mercury in Virgo, which is the opposite energy, we are in this place on some level of like wanting things to be perfect, wanting things to be just right. Maybe professionally, maybe personally, you're like striving during Virgo season to figure everything out, to put every block in the right place. And the lunar eclipse in Pisces might suggest that there is beauty in imperfection, that there is beauty in doing things like, you know, in a quirky, unique way, and you don't need to have everything figured out. It's also, with Jupiter being the ruler squaring this eclipse from the first house, it is also an invitation for you to maybe even create your own calling and create your own passion. One thing is for sure, your professional life will get a lot of attention over the course of the next couple of years. And this eclipse is a chance to clear something so that you can welcome new beginnings, so that you can welcome a new job, and something likely very spiritual, or something where you get to influence people, support people, show your compassion. So in the process, at the time of the eclipse, you may need to let go of a job, you may need to complete a project. I think weighing and analyzing what kind of passion is, like, you know, what is realistic, where do you need to just go for it, and where do you need to maybe lessen your grip and let go of something is the big question of this eclipse. And also trusting that it's okay to fail, it's okay to try, you know, you will be okay. You're just like meant to listen to what that inner voice is telling you and follow your dreams. And it might not be immediate, it might be very confusing at the time of the eclipse because the energy is a little bit confusing. as per usual during the eclipse season, but eventually you'll figure it out. Please share how this resonates. How have things been in your professional life? Do you feel ready for some kind of a shift? And as always, if you're looking for a personal reading, you have questions, you want me to look at your natal chart and be as precise and connected to you as possible, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com and pick up my Moon in Cancer candle on there because it can be very supportive at this time. If you are the lovely Cancer rising, the lunar eclipse is happening in your 9th house. And we are completing a chapter in the sector of education, travel, legal matters that may have started in March 2024. Let's say you started applying for a visa, you get a visa, you took a course, you get your diploma, you scheduled a trip, you go on the trip. But on a larger level, this is an introduction to a new eclipse series, right? This is an introduction to the next 2+ years of Virgo South Node and Pisces North Node. And so it's interesting because the eclipse in the 9th house is very spiritual. It's very like, it's about your beliefs. It's about your version of the world, right? And with South Node about to enter Virgo in January 2025 and the eclipse is happening in Virgo, you will be going through this sort of period of like releasing your need to micromanage, releasing your need to have all the answers, releasing some of the anxiety, and maybe even like welcoming some kind of practices that are more supportive, that are more spiritual, that are more soulful. So the lunar eclipse in the 9th house could be some kind of potentially crisis of faith. If you feel like things haven't been going your way, if you feel like there's been a lot of roadblocks, delays involving education, travel, writing, or legal matters, the eclipse might offer a chance to set something aside and maybe like end a pursuit, wrap things up. But it can also offer you a break and a chance to trust that things will work out and maybe like stop pushing and like take a step back and ask yourself, why are you even doing the things that you're doing? You may need to complete some kind of, class, course, a legal matter so that you can open yourself up to new beginnings, because the eclipse series happening in your 9th house over the course of the next couple of years are definitely suggesting a possibility of relocation, a new course of study, a new development in teaching, especially if you are a teacher. Some type of important ideological shift. Some of you might discover a new faith, a new course of study, like become an astrologer. Come join my class whenever I'm ready to make it official. But some type of like ideological shift. And first, I think with this eclipse, you are meant to work on believing, work on kind of connecting once again with that higher purpose, figuring out what is truly important to you, what kind of pursuits are maybe you're doing because other people expect you to do them, and which ones are truthful. And then take a step back, take a breath, and work on like sort of inner mindset. What do you believe? What is important to you? What are you trying to achieve? If you're looking for personal guidance, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, look at your natal chart, talk about your relationship, your year to come, and more. And pick up my Moon in Cancer 2 candle. This is the perfect choice for you guys and can be just what you need to get you through the eclipse season, because it has a very calming, soothing effect. For the lovely Leo rising, the lunar eclipse ahead is happening in your 8th house, the house of debts, loans, shared finances, other people's money, and resources of other people. And on one hand, you are completing a chapter started in March 2024 with the new moon in Pisces. Maybe you're paying off some kind of a debt. Maybe you're moving in with your significant other if you've been planning to do it. Maybe you are letting go of some kind of, insurance payment you've been paying, or you've been getting some kind of support, let's say from your ex-husband, child support, etc. But on a larger level, the lunar eclipse in the 8th house also opens up the themes that we'll be exploring for the next 2 years, with the Virgo and Pisces eclipses highlighting your 2nd and 8th house. And I think it's encouraging you to examine how you relate with other people. You know, with Virgo in your 2nd house, you are likely to be someone who is quite savvy financially. You may have strategies, you may have balance checkbooks, you know, you're sort of good at figuring out financial matters. And the eclipse in Pisces might ask you to trust others. It might, you know, and even like with this one, but even more so for the next 2 years, there might be a chance to rethink how you relate with other people, to rethink how you share with other people. And with North Node here, you may find yourself in a position of getting a big loan, or, you know, getting pregnant and having to rely on your spouse. So, kind of like learning to trust that other people have your back, even learning to trust that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. But before you get there, before you get to that place of relating and relying on other people, I think this eclipse will offer you a chance to very carefully analyze your agreements and relationships with other people, and ask yourself which ones are good, which ones are supportive, and which ones are not. And maybe if you have some kind of friendship or a relationship that is draining and toxic, and even a debt that you owe to someone, the eclipse might offer you a chance to let that go. And even more so spiritually, because 8th house deals with healing, there might also be opportunities to forgive yourself, right? Like if you have a debt and you've been really focused on paying it off and you've been giving yourself a hard time, just take a breath out. You'll figure it out. Maybe you can ask the person you owe money to for an extension. Maybe you can have, like, you know, have a little trust that you will figure it out. Especially, you are the Leo rising, you are the star, you got it. So very much the time to, like I said, examine who you're tied to and which ties are worth keeping and which ones are not, because it is quite likely that for the next 2 years you will get even more enmeshed with people. So choose wisely who you want to go to war with or make love with, right? Let's go with make love. Let me know how this resonates. If you're looking for more, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. I'd be happy to talk about your year coming up, your relationship, this eclipse season, and more. If you are the beautiful Virgo rising, the lunar eclipse in the 7th house represents a major change in your relationship sector. In terms of your status, from single to engaged, from engaged to married, in terms of life of your partner, maybe they are, you know, maybe you've been in a long distance, but they're getting transferred, and now let's say they're in military and you were doing long distance and now they're getting transferred and you are starting a life together, moving in together. 7th house deals with partnerships of all kinds, and sometimes those partnerships might be your nanny, your mother, your contractor. So the eclipse in the 7th house will very much encourage you to examine your relationships, and on some level you're maybe closing chapters started in March 2024. We had a new moon in Pisces, so take a look back at March. But on the other level, this is a big sort of grand opening of the Pisces Virgo eclipse series. Last time we were in this exact sort of series was in 2006, 2007. So feel free to look back at what was happening in your relationships at the time. But it's interesting because Pisces is a very generous energy. It is a very trusting energy. It is sometimes very self-sacrificial. So this eclipse is both an opportunity to examine things and make changes, right? Like if you have been too self-sacrificial and you've been just sort of waiting for your partner to get their career done, or, you know, for them to reach their goals so you can reach your goals, the eclipse might represent a need to shift those things. They might represent a need to examine relationship agreements and boundaries in relationships and maybe make some changes, you know, transform some outdated agreements. If the relationship if a relationship feels very draining and unhealthy, the relationship might end at this point. But it can also be an opportunity to just celebrate the relationships because, you know, as a Virgo rising, you can be quite perfectionist and you want things to be a certain way. And maybe your partner is not perfect, but you still love them. And so with this eclipse, maybe you're letting go of some pressure you're putting on the relationship or pressure you're putting on yourself and getting to that deeper, all forgiving love and connection. And I wonder too, like, I am talking about relationships with other people, but what about your relationship with yourself? What about how you are with yourself, right? Like, can you be more loving, more accepting, more forgiving of yourself? Because that's the most important relationship you've got. Please share how it resonates. If you're looking for more, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. I'd be happy to talk about your year coming up, your natal chart, your relationship, and more. And pick up my Moon in Cancer 2 candle. It's my choice for the eclipse season because of its soothing, beautiful energy. Almond moon is similar energy too. For my lovely Libra risings, the eclipse is happening in your 6th house. And on one hand, you're maybe completing a professional project, getting over a health issue, something you've been dealing with since March 2024 when we had a new moon in Pisces. On the other hand, since this is an introduction of the new eclipse series in Virgo and Pisces, you are focusing on a general philosophy and approach you have to your work and to your even sort of your tendency to not have boundaries with work, let's be honest, or your tendency to sacrifice and give too much of yourself and perhaps go in the, like, be in the place where you're unhappy, but all you do is complain. I'm looking at myself more so than anyone else. So, you know, the eclipse in the 6th house, a North Node is going to shift into your 6th house next year. Take a look back at what was happening in the sector of health, work, escaping, routines, everyday life back in 2006, 2007, because that is when we had the same exact eclipse series, and share what you come up with down below. But chances are you are, you know, just in general, I think you're someone who works really hard. You, like I said, maybe have sort of poor boundaries and you may have felt like work is just overpowering everything. Saturn has been in your 6th house. It's been like taking all of your time, taking all of your thoughts. And now we get the eclipse in the 6th house, which is a suggestion that it can no longer be so. And with the South Node about to shift into your 12th and currently during the eclipse, the Sun and Mercury being in your 12th, it is very likely that you're becoming more aware of what self-destructive tendency you have and how maybe your tendency to work and be very critical and perfectionist is unhealthy for you. So the lunar eclipse will give you a chance to examine your philosophy surrounding work, to let go of a project, let go of some kind of commitment, to maybe rethink what is worth your time, what is worth your energy, what is really worth the sacrifice, right? Are you gonna remember things in the future that you have poured sweat, blood, and tears over, right? Because chances are you may not. So the invitation here is to ask yourself which projects are important. And with Mars in your 10th house and the eclipse and the nodes about to shift in the 6th house, you may notice that you're becoming a lot more focused on helping others, maybe even volunteering for some kind of charity, helping animals, helping sick, elderly, underprivileged people. You may notice that you're becoming more health conscious and perhaps learning to say no to things, quitting a job that doesn't feel satisfying. The invitation here is to let go of those self-defeating habits and figure out what is truly worth pursuing. Don't expect to have all the answers at the time of the eclipse, because chances are eclipse tends to confuse everything. Neptune is right here, but pay attention to what soothes you and what makes you feel happy, so that when the energy of the eclipse clears, you can take further action. If you're looking for personal guidance, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. We could talk about this, your relationship, your year coming up, your natal chart, and more. And definitely pick up Moon in Cancer at my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, because this is the candle that highlights your 10th house of career, and it is perfect for the retrograde phase of Mars and for manifesting better professional situation and relationships. If you are a Scorpio rising, there's a lunar eclipse in your 5th house. And you're maybe completing a chapter, a creative chapter, a romantic chapter, a parenthood chapter that got started in March 2024 with a new moon in Pisces. Or you are, but also you are opening yourself up to new possibilities in that sector. And so we're looking at the 5th house, right? And 5th house is about pleasure. It is about fun. It is about hanging with kids, but also being childlike. And so the lunar eclipse here is asking you to examine your relationship to pleasure. On one hand, it might ask you to look at sort of bad habits and self-destructive tendencies, maybe a tendency to go out until 1 a.m. and then wake up tired, or even some kind of, poor choices you're making in your sex life potentially. And so if there are bad habits and sort of negative tendencies around pleasure, you will be encouraged through this eclipse to let them go. On the other hand, the lunar eclipse in the 5th house might invite you to welcome pleasure and welcome joy and prioritize pleasure and joy, right? Because the ruler is Jupiter in your 8th house, and it suggests that the focus currently is very heavily on the relationships with other people, on the kind of, their resources, their maybe debts, their karma, because Jupiter in the 8th is all about like the partnerships, the relationships that you're in. But the lunar eclipse in the 5th house is about you, and it's about your goals and your satisfaction and your sort of happiness. And so with this lunar eclipse in the 5th house, I think you're also looking at, besides the opportunity to sort of release bad habits around pleasure and maybe rethink relationships and complete some kind of, experience some kind of change involving children and parenthood, like give birth. But you're also looking at a chance to rediscover joy, rediscover fun, let yourself have a good time, let yourself go out and maybe explore interests and go hiking or go swimming and do things that are playful and fun, and just let yourself do it, right? Because Saturn has been in your 5th house, and maybe you've been feeling like you're sort of running into some kind of blocks involving sex and pleasure and inspiration. So the lunar eclipse in the 5th house is suggesting both a need to find that inspiration and that pleasure, but also a need to be structured about it, because let's not forget, Saturn is here, and Saturn will want you to figure out step-by-step strategy. But don't expect things to be super clear right around the eclipse, because it conjoins Neptune, and Neptune has a tendency to blur things. But pay attention, definitely pay attention to your relationships right now, romantic relationships. Pay attention to what brings you joy, because when the eclipse energy clears, when the confusion clears, you may get more of an opportunity to act on those realizations. Pisces wants you to have a good time. It wants you to dream and to follow those dreams, but like release things that are not healthy. Please share how this resonates. If you're looking for more, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. I'd be happy to talk about your year coming up, your relationship, your natal chart, and anything else you have questions on. For the lovely Sagittarius rising, there's a lunar eclipse in your 4th house. And so on one hand, this is a completion of a chapter in the home family living situation that got started in March 2024 with a new moon in Pisces. On the other hand, it's an introduction of new themes and a stronger focus on home, family, and living situation. It suggests some kind of a shift in the realm of home, family, and living situation, and perhaps an honest need to examine where are you being too accommodating? Where are you being too self-sacrificial or self-sacrificing? Where are you letting your family control your decisions? And where do you need better boundaries, right? The eclipse is illuminating your sector of home, family, and living situation, and it is offering a chance to make some kind of changes there, right? So the eclipse might also offer you opportunities to move, to redesign, to move out of your parents' house, right? But because, like, I think, you know, because it's the fourth house, and fourth house represents sort of hidden early beginnings, childhood wounds, I think there is like a deeper invitation to be more forgiving and more accepting of like family and your childhood, and maybe close some of those chapters, right? Like, instead of expecting with a very, very like Virgo mind and Virgo Mercury around the time of this eclipse to understand everything or have some important conversations or have family be a certain way, the lunar eclipse in the fourth house is asking you, well, if you don't get those answers, can you still trust that things happen for the right reason? And then once you do, once you accept certain things, what can be done to make things better? What do you have control over? And once again, sort of an opportunity to like release some of the unhealthy relationships in the family, to assert yourself, to set maybe some kind of boundaries, because let's not forget Saturn is also in Pisces. And also, if we are talking about the upcoming cycle with North Node entering Pisces and South Node entering Virgo, you're maybe starting a dream around home, family, and living situation. And like, you know, let's say in the next couple of years, the dream becomes relocating to Bali. And so with this eclipse, you're asking yourself, like, what needs to change? What needs to be cleared? You know, maybe you need to get your house ready and put it on the market and sort of prepare, right? So this is like, how can you cleanse your inner space, forgive what needs to be forgiven, change what needs to be changed, so that you can build more comfort, security, and peace in your home. And I wonder too, with like lunar eclipse and the Piscean themes, could this be about creating some kind of sanctuary in your home, right? Like creating a meditation room, a yoga room, something that makes you feel sort of relaxed and chill and Piscean. Please share how this resonates. If you're looking for more, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. I'd be happy to look at your natal chart, talk about your year coming up, your relationship, or anything else. I also highly recommend my Moon in Cancer candle or Almond Moon to get you through the more shaky energy of the eclipse season. And pick up my 2025 planner too. It's the time. It is the time. Moving on to Capricorn rising. If you are a Capricorn rising, the lunar eclipse is highlighting your third house and brings important changes to your communication, to your everyday life, to the matters involving siblings, neighbors, community, business, writing, skills. To sum up, your everyday life is transforming and your thoughts are changing as well. You're maybe completing a chapter that got started in March 2024 with a new moon in Pisces. You're maybe experiencing flashbacks to something that was happening in your life in 2006, 2007, when we had North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo last time. Definitely reflect back and let me know, what were those years like? Have you noticed any changes involving siblings, neighbors, community, communication, etc.? Because the lunar eclipse in your third house is inviting you to examine what you think, what you say, and what you believe. And it's happening right in opposition to the Sun and Mercury in Virgo, right? And the Sun and Mercury in Virgo want to know everything. They want to have answers to everything. They're very like detail oriented. But the lunar eclipse in the third house is asking you to focus on like the bigger picture and to be both forgiving but also willing to make changes that are necessary. So the lunar eclipse in the third house might be the time you forgive a sibling for something they said, or you let go of some kind of situation involving a sibling, or even a family member that's not a sibling, someone who's like extended family, not necessarily parents. It might be the time you examine how you talk to yourself and how you deal with problems, and where are you being too controlling, and where do you just need to let go, right? Like, where do you need more trust? The lunar eclipse in the 3rd might suggest the completion of a writing project, maybe changes around your business, maybe some kind of a need to adjust and pivot and possibly even ask for help, get more involved with other people. It might represent a transformation of your role, your sort of everyday, like professional, familial role that you play. And over the course of the next years, as we keep getting these eclipses in Pisces and Virgo, a chance to get more involved with your community, to become more of a spiritual leader, to share your vision, right? I think another thing the eclipses in Pisces will offer is a chance to tap into your imagination, to tap into your spiritual self, to tap into your sort of energy, right? Like, as a Capricorn rising, you come across as very discerning and structured and hardworking and grounded. But Pisces is your 3rd house, so you have this wealth of knowledge and spirituality and sort of, maybe you do Reiki, maybe you do Akashic records, maybe you are into astrology. So I think the lunar eclipse and the following years will give you a chance to get more connected to those energies within yourself. Please share how this resonates. What do you think it's going to be like for you? Do you remember 2006, 2007? And please, if you have additional questions, book a reading at anastasia.astrology.com. Pick up my Moon in Cancer 2 candle. There's a lot to be excited about on my website. Moving on to Aquarius rising. The lunar eclipse is happening in your 2nd house, and on a smaller scale, this is a completion of a financial chapter that maybe got started in March 2024. On a larger scale, it is your chance to rethink your values, to rethink your relationship with money, and open yourself up to new business ideas, to new investments, to new goals that you will be exploring for the next 2 years or so. So the lunar eclipse in the 2nd house brings attention to your money and values. It's ruled by Jupiter in the 5th house, so the bigger questions you're asking yourself involve pleasure, involve relationships, involve joy and parenthood potentially, and so the financial changes that you're going through might be connected to those topics. So, it's a spiritual energy, it's a soulful energy. It is a generous energy, but it's also maybe an invitation to examine where you're being overly generous, where are you giving too much and not getting enough, and maybe release some of those dynamics. It is also, I think, the time to ask yourself what is truly important to you. What do you want to be known for? What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want your older years to look like, right? And so the lunar eclipse in the 2nd house might be an invitation to sort of start saving money for something, or quit a job that doesn't feel satisfying. Because with the North Node about to shift into your 2nd house in January 2025, chances are that you will be quite focused on your financial sector, and you might discover new sources of income, you might pay off debts, you might create more stability in your life. And it's an interesting eclipse because it's like, with Neptune here, I think it's inviting you to dream. But it's also inviting you to ask, where are you being a little bit delusional, potentially? Neptune has been in your 2nd house for a while, right? Maybe you've been waiting for something that is not coming true. And so the lunar eclipse in the 2nd house might be that invitation to figure out which financial habits are not healthy, And once again, with your spending or your sort of trust in other people, your generosity with other people, and figure out which dreams are worth pursuing. And not just any dreams, but spiritual dreams, soulful dreams, imaginative dreams. For some of you, the North Node entering Pisces in the second house might be about taking on a creative career and expressing yourself through writing, you know, starting some kind of yoga school or some sort of spiritual calling taking over and becoming more important in your life. Please share how this resonates. If you're looking for more, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. I do relationship, natal, year ahead, predictive readings, and you can also find my candles, planners, everything on my website. Last but not least, if you are a Pisces rising, this is huge. This is an eclipse in your first house. It is about you, it is about your body, it is about your health, it is about your identity, and it is about how you answer the question of who are you. So on a smaller insular level, this is a completion of the chapter started with a new moon in March 2024. So take a look back, what got started in your life in March. Maybe you went on a diet, maybe you started exercising, maybe you undergone a surgery, and so you may be experiencing some kind of changes involving that. On a larger level, we're about to start having 2 years of eclipses in your first house, and this is the first one. This is an inception. These are new themes, right? A new version of yourself is going to be born. And so for a while, since March 2023, Saturn has been in your first house. It brought attention to your health. It encouraged you to become more responsible. It encouraged you to take control of yourself. And the eclipses will build on that, right? They will very much take those themes and encourage you to take charge, to become the main character. But I think before you get there, because this eclipse represents a completion of something, you need to be honest with yourself. It might be an identity crisis of some sorts, right? And it might not be immediately apparent what you need to do or the changes you need to make, because while we are in the eclipse season, it tends to be muddy and blurry and confusing. That's why I highly recommend Moon in Cancer 2 candle or oil or almond moon to help you get through these shaky energies. But it's an inception of something. Like I said, a new version of yourself. It is also a repeat of the cycle we've experienced in 2006, 2007. Take a look back. How has your body, your identity, your job, your life changed in 2006, 2007? If you were alive and older than 15 at that point. I mean, even if you were younger than 15, maybe something important happened. But I think, you know, this eclipse is your chance to get honest with yourself. And you may understand where are you not giving yourself enough energy. You may understand where you're being self-defeating. You may need to let go of something first before you open yourself to new beginnings. So, you know, dealing with like health issues, overcoming some kind of like inner battles, letting go of a job, letting go. Even like some kind of relationship tensions might arise because the sun and Mercury are in your 7th house, like realizing that you have to take care of yourself, which might be hard for you, but that's where all the sign points towards, like, take care of yourself, because you can't reach relationship goals and you can't, you know, become a parent until you like take care of your, I don't know, something like your gut issues or something. Of course you can, but like you don't want to have a child running around while you're dealing with your health issues. So where, you know, once again, what is self-defeating? What do you need to release versus what makes your heart beat faster? And how can you once again change your life, get more serious, get more focused, take better care of yourself, your health, build yourself up with affirmations so that you can reach that goal. And with North Node in Pisces entering Pisces in January 2025, it's also a spiritual goal. I can see some of you getting inspired to become a writer, to become a tarot reader, to become a Reiki practitioner, to become a doula, a yoga teacher, like, you know, something that is soulful, supportive, and kind of great for the world and great for you. Let me know how this resonates. If you're looking for more, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. I'd be happy to look at your natal chart, your year coming up, your relationship, and more. Definitely pick up my Moon in Cancer 2 candle on there. And thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you feel excited about the eclipse. There's definitely nothing to worry. You've been through plenty of eclipses at this point, and you've survived all of them. So enjoy, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.